who also wrote Permission to Come Home, Reclaiming Mental Health as Asian Americans.
We're also joined by leadership expert and the chair of Cherokees of Los Angeles, an affiliate of Cherokee Nation, Professor Cynthia Ruiz. Thank you both so much for joining us. So I think in this conversation, we kind of want to provide a toolkit for people, right, on having these conversations. So Dr. Wang, I want to start with you because we just heard from those students, and so many of them said, I'm afraid people are going to misinterpret what I say. I'm afraid to speak. Can you talk to us about how that kind of fear can be difficult, challenging when we're in these racial healing spaces, when we're trying to come together and talk?
Yeah, I would say one of the things that I think we're all really longing for is psychological safety, right? When we have these conversations, they're going to bring up past traumas, intergenerational traumas and stories. They're going to bring up a lot of pain and struggle. And in that, if there's not a safe space in which people can be held in that, to be understood and seen, then people end up reacting against each other in that moment. And so I think to have those conversations, we need to, one, have humility. But that comes from setting aside perhaps our ego in the moment, owning the fact that we have our own pain and that we are working through that actively, to then behold the suffering of another. And I would say the second ingredient then would be, can we hold reverence for the sacredness of another human being, irrespective of what divides us, but that I care about you and your sanctity of being here as much as I would myself or the people I love.
Professor Ruiz, can I be really honest? I'm a white woman from upstate New York, from a predominantly white town. My family dates back generations to a ship right after the Mayflower, the Snow family in this country. And sometimes it makes me scared that I might say the wrong thing if I enter a conversation like this, quite frankly. Like I get scared about what do I say and how do I own everything that I just said. I realize the privileges that I've had. What's your suggestion for people like me who might be a little scared to, as you said, say the wrong thing?
Well, I think first and foremost is honesty. We heard earlier tonight about the truth. You know, we really just want the truth, and especially for Native people in this country, we want the truth to be told about our history. You know, from our perspective, you know, Columbus didn't just come and discover America. We were already here. We were here and we were thriving. In North America, there were civilizations, advanced civilizations throughout, you know, all the way down to the Mayans and the Aztecs in central, what we know now as the United States. Chaco Canyon was a hub. That's in New Mexico. It was a hub of thought leaders coming together. So part of it is just for us, what we want is an acknowledgement of the origins of this country. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for having this conversation, this very important conversation, because this is part of the healing. And for us, having that acknowledgement and having these safe spaces, I think it's important when we have these safe spaces to have ground rules, especially at the university level. You know, ground rules where people are, you know, having respect for each other. People want to be heard. And, you know, when we really have a safe space to be heard, the healing can begin. Because as Dr. Wang mentioned, this is, you know, generational trauma. This is historical trauma. And for Native people, we have gone through nothing less than genocide in this country. And it hasn't been acknowledged. So it's hard for us to heal.
Well, it strikes me that the reality is so many of these conversations in this country don't happen in healing circles, right? They get heated. So what do you recommend, A, for de-escalating, but B, also moving forward? Because sometimes things get heated. Someone says something that triggers someone else. How do you move in that?
Yeah, I would say that in those moments, I think, you know, if you have the wherewithal to realize you're triggered, can you even call for a timeout in that moment and say, hey, hold on, I'm feeling something, right? And even naming that discomfort, naming perhaps the anger, the rage that might have surfaced from it, and saying, you know what, this conversation is important enough that I'm not going to rush forward in this. and there's no urgency, right? This work is lifelong for all of us. So let me actually take a minute, or let me take a few minutes, and let's circle back when I'm in a better place to show up well, and that this conversation actually can lead us forward.
That's so good. Racial trauma took time, and racial healing takes time too, as do these conversations. Well, Dr. Jenny Wang and Professor Cynthia Ruiz, thank you both for your time. We really appreciate it.
Up next,